How do I improve the soil in my yard? What kills mites in my strawberry plants? And do I mulch or rake up the grass when I mow my yard? I've got answers to these questions and more coming up on Garden Sense. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Folks, before I jump into the questions, I just want to say a big thank you on behalf of everyone over at rosensonline.com. Folks, you made the month of March our highest grossing month in terms of sales ever. I'm not just talking about the highest grossing month of March, I'm talking about the single busiest and highest grossing month we have ever had over at Rosens Online, and we have you to thank for it. So thank you so much for your patronage over the years. Thank you for all of the questions that you continue to send in. I got to be honest with you, I absolutely love getting emails from customers talking about how they've been a customer of Rosens Online for 10, 15 years, going all the way back to Yas when he started the program all those years ago on WMAL. So thank you so much for continuing to do business with us, for continuing to support this program, and obviously for continuing to support Rosens Online. But enough about that. You're here to get answers to your questions, so I've got 5 questions that we want to address here today. So buckle up, everybody. Let's jump right in. The first question is from Helene. Hello, Tim. We seem to have an infestation of either mites or whitefly all over our strawberry plants outside in planters. We don't know what or how to treat the berry plants with something natural and non-toxic so as to still be able to enjoy an eventual berry harvest in a few months. So when it comes to finding a natural or an organic solution to insects in terms of your strawberry plants, I would highly recommend you try neem oil. Neem oil is a natural product that helps prevent insects from kind of causing that infestation that you're describing on your strawberries. But neem oil also offers some disease protection. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. Now, I have apple trees, I have peach trees, and I use neem oil several times a year to keep the insects off. And personally, I've had a lot of success with it. So what I would actually do is head over to rosensonline.com, pick up some neem oil, and start applying that regularly. Now, I'll tell you that you should do it at least once a month, but for me, especially when insect activity is really high in my yard, I will tend to put this down at least once a week. I'm not saying you need to do that right now, but as you get into that summertime and the insect activity really increases, I would look to actually put down a couple of more applications to keep those strawberries safe. The next question is from Ken. Good morning, Tim. I've serviced my lawnmower and I'm ready for a new season, but there's a lingering question early in the spring for my lawn: to mulch or bag my tall fescue grass cuttings. My inclination is to bag them as new shoots attempt to reach the light, but please let me know your thoughts. So really this comes down to personal preference in my opinion, and here's why I say that. Although mulching your grass absolutely provides your lawn with some nutritional benefits, if you're using something like a turf trust and a kickstart on your lawn, it's not that necessary to make sure that your grass is getting a lot of those additional nutrients. Now, that doesn't mean that it's hurting your lawn, but again, for me, I don't necessarily worry and kind of overthink whether I'm going to mulch or whether I'm going to rake up. Now, personally, what I do is if I'm on a regular mowing schedule, which is for me about every 5 days, I will not rake up the grass. I'll mulch it up and I'll just leave it. However, there are times where the grass gets really long. Maybe I'm traveling, we've had a lot of rain and I haven't been able to cut the grass and it's just a lot longer than I would normally go. Then typically I'll cut it and I'll have my boys rake it up for me. So again, it's more of a personal preference. If you're gonna mulch though, you have to make sure that the soil temperature is warm enough that when you cut the grass and you leave it, that it's simply warm enough that it's going to decay relatively quickly as a result of the moisture on the ground and the moisture that it's going to get from the air. So the colder months, you typically don't want to mulch your grass simply because it's not going to decay fast enough, and that can actually lend itself to lawn diseases. So in those scenarios, you definitely want to rake it up. But again, I wouldn't really overthink this. If you are mowing your lawn regularly every 4 or 5 days during the late spring and the summer, you can absolutely mulch it up and let it sit there. But if the grass is just too high and it's going to really require you to just go over it and over and over until you really mulch it up, typically it's faster if you just rake it up and discard it. So it's entirely up to you. I do both depending on the time of year and depending on the schedule that I'm on for mowing. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's better to do one thing over the other, especially if you're using, again, turf truss or kickstart, because frankly, that's providing so much nutrition to your lawn already. I just really wouldn't worry about whether you're mulching or raking in that regard. The next question is from John, and it's actually our weed of the week. Dear Tim, I think I have an infestation of shepherd's purse. Can I treat them with Weed Beater Ultra, or is there another more preferred treatment? Can I treat it during the time when I'm putting down turf truss and gallery? So shepherd's purse is actually a pretty cool little weed because not only is it edible, but it also has a number of medicinal uses. So to me, that's pretty cool. However, it's also an extremely hardy annual weed. Now, what I mean by that is the seedlings will sprout in the fall, and then they will basically stay dormant and survive all the way through the winter, and then you'll get the weeds, popping up now like you were seeing in the spring. What makes them so hardy is, one, they can easily survive when the temperatures reach 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and the seeds can actually survive in the soil for up to 35 years. That's just ridiculous. So when I say that it's really, really hardy, I mean it. Now, in terms of how to control it and ultimately kill it, Weed Beater Ultra will work great in terms of killing the leaves and kind of killing back the plants. But again, I just told you that the seed can survive for up to 35 years in the soil. So you have to make sure that you get down something like a Dimension early in the fall so that when that seedling sprouts, it doesn't drop its seeds and then they germinate come springtime. So make sure you get down a Dimension in the early to mid fall to kind of provide that chemical barrier of protection against shepherd's purse. But in terms of right now, you can absolutely use Weed Beater Ultra. It's a very effective product. I use it on my own lawn, and frankly, I love it. Now, I will say this, that if you are still struggling with this because it's so resilient and again, a very hardy annual weed, if it's a really bad infestation, you may just need to bite the bullet and start digging some of this stuff out by hand. But again, be really careful, because what you don't want to do is actually cause more seed to spread. So again, to answer your question, you can absolutely use Weed Beater Ultra. Make sure you get down some Dimension. You can put Dimension down in the spring, but ideally you're going to want to make sure you absolutely get it down in the fall, because that's when it's going to be most effective for preventing shepherd's purse. The next question is also from John. Tim, I live in Massachusetts. When is the best time to put down Moss Max? So Moss Max is an iron-based product. So as soon as the moss that you're referring to starts to green up and grow, you can effectively put down Moss Max. Obviously, as it gets warmer, it's going to be a little bit more effective. Not exactly sure of the weather that you're experiencing right now in Massachusetts. But again, if it's warm enough to be greening up and starting to grow and you're thinking about it, chances are it's absolutely warm enough to get down Moss Max. And again, Moss Max is available over at rosensonline.com. The last question for today is from Gary. Tim, attached, you'll find a soil test report. Living in Chicagoland, what product should I put down and when? So looking at the soil test you provided, your soil is low in nitrogen, it's low in phosphorus, it's low in potassium, and it's low in iron. Well, Turf Trust Professional Starter Formula will help resolve all of that. Now, we actually recommend that you put Turf Trust fertilizers down 4 times a year. March 15th, June 15th, right around Labor Day, and then a fourth and final feeding sometime between, Halloween and Thanksgiving. Do this, and I promise you that next year, if you were to retest your soil, you're going to get completely different results. Now, in addition to putting down the starter formula, I'd actually highly recommend that you put down Kickstart. Kickstart is an organic product. It does put some nutrition that's, again, listed on that soil test back into the soil, but it's also going to really help your grass thrive, which is typically one of the biggest reasons that people are concerned about their soil, is because their grass isn't growing. So definitely put down Turf Trust Professional Starter Formula, put down some Kickstart, and like I said, within the next year, you're going to see some drastically different results in your soil. All right, folks, just a couple final thoughts here. Guys, we are still within that magic window where you want to be putting down your Turf Trust fertilizers, your Gallery, and your Dimension. The window for Gallery is going to be closing here in the next couple of weeks, but the window for Dimension is going to be open for a little bit while longer. So if you have not put those two products down, you need to start getting them down really, really soon to take care of your broadleaf weeds and to take care of your crabgrass. Now, the Turf Trust fertilizers, obviously, as I mentioned in the previous question, we recommend that you put those down 4 times a year. So right now is the ideal time to start. So if you haven't put down Turf Trust lawn fertilizers on your grass, head over to rosensonline.com and pick up a couple of bags. You'll be glad you did. Folks, I've also mentioned this a lot the last several weeks. You want to make sure you are incorporating Kickstart into your weekly maintenance routine for your lawn, for your trees, your shrubs, your indoor and your outdoor plants. It's a really effective product. We sell a ton of it over at Rosens Online because it works. So make sure you start incorporating Kickstart into that weekly maintenance program. Also, we definitely want to start thinking about weeds and killing those back. Folks, if you are in some of the warmer states that some of our listeners are emailing me from, you can absolutely start looking at putting down something like a Weed Beater Ultra right now to kill back those weeds. Some of the colder states, you're probably not getting too much weed activity just yet, so you can absolutely wait a couple of more weeks and look more to maybe that early to mid-May before we start putting it down. But again, some of those warmer states, you can absolutely start using Weed Beater Ultra to kill back those weeds. Now, the other thing that we want to be thinking about, again, especially in those warmer states, but even some of those colder states, it's going to be coming, is getting down some type of a grub control. We recommend BioAdvance 24-hour grub killer. Again, it's going to offer some preventative protection, but it's also going to kill any existing grubs that you have in the soil. And you're really going to start wanting to think about getting down that grub control product really between like April 15th all the way into mid-May. That's kind of the first wave of when we may see some grubs, and so that's really the ideal time to start applying that to your grass. Folks, thank you so much for making March a record month over at rosensonline.com. Again, I know I addressed it at the top of the program, but it was a huge blessing to read these numbers and to see all the hundreds of emails that came in through March, all the hundreds of orders that came in. It means a lot to a small business like ours, so thank you very much. And folks, please remember that if you have questions, whether you want those questions to show up here on Garden Sense, or if you just need some expertise regarding how to care for your lawn, how to care for your trees, your shrubs, your plants, your veggie garden, whatever it is, make sure you send an email to tim@rosensonline.com, and I will be happy to respond directly to you. Folks, I hope you had a wonderful Easter weekend a couple of days ago, and looking ahead, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. God bless.